Hello and welcome to the Entertainment Biz Show presented by Vouch. I'm your host, Justin Jacobson. As a reminder, nothing is intended as legal advice, as all of it's for educational purposes only. Special thanks to our sponsor, Vouch. Vouch is a digital gig marketplace where talent and businesses can hire pre-approved individuals to streamline talent searches, where industry dot connectors earn from making talent referrals. Visit vouch-app.com to learn more about the world's first social utility network where it truly pays to know people. Hashtag ad. So this week's guest is HALIENE. She's a Grammy-nominated songwriter and performer who has been named the Female Artist of the Year at the EDMAs. She's worked with dance music legends such as Armin van Buuren, Ilium, Gareth Emery, and Seven Lions, and she's performed live at iconic festivals and venues across the world, including EDC, Dream State, Lost Lands, Bass Canyon, Ember Shores, and many more. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So to start, tell us about your musical journey. How did you first get involved in the music and entertainment industry?
Oh man, that was a long time ago. It's been a long road, I will tell you. I started professionally when I was 14. That was the first time I ever got paid to be a singer. I sang a demo for some songwriters, and that kind of started me off. I've always known that music was what I wanted to do. It's just been a long, continuous path for me. I signed my first record deal when I was 17 years old to Razor and Tie Records, and I released my first album when I was 18, and I started touring shortly thereafter. I got to open for some legendary acts like Paul Simon and Kenny Loggins, and I was in the genre of soft pop meets kind of smooth jazz, which was a combination of my influences as a singer growing up and the genres that I listened to because my dad was a jazz piano player. So it was a kind of natural progression for me. But after that whole touring cycle and coming into my own as a singer and an artist in my early 20s, I realized that maybe it's not what I truly loved. And I started asking myself, what do I really love? It turned out to be electronic music.
Mhm.
So I made the deep dive into EDM in like 2013, 2014, and I fell in love with the genre. And I realized there were so few singers up on those stages and so many DJs, so many guys up there playing the songs. And I saw an opportunity because it had been hard for me to find my place in pop music with my label not really knowing what to do with me. I left them behind and I said, I'm going to start fresh and do something from zero. So I actually changed my artist name to HALIENE instead of my legal name, Kelly Sweet. And I just dove right into EDM. And my first really big releases were Saving Light with Gareth Emery and Rush Over Me with Seven Lions, Millennium, and Said the Sky. And both of those came out around the same time and sort of catapulted the whole start for me as HALIENE. And I just love this genre. I love doing what I do. I've expanded in music since then. It's been an amazing ride.
Well, yeah, let's kind of like tease some of that out. So, who were some of your musical influences? Some of the early people that really kind of impacted how you've developed.
Like I said, I grew up on jazz because my dad was a jazz pianist, and I listened to a lot of different greats, but my favorite will always be Ella Fitzgerald. I was trained classically as a singer, so I really looked up to Renee Fleming, Sarah Brightman. So those are like two totally opposite ends of the spectrum. And then personally, singers that I love go from Dido to Celine Dion to Barbara Streisand. It's all over the place. I just fall in love with great tones and great voices, but you can kind of hear all of those sounds in my voice, I think.
Amazing. So, how did you kind of transition? What was that like, kind of going from this more, folk Kenny Loggins world into the EDM club world?
It was very scary, I will say, because I had spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of record label money on the whole brand of Kelly Sweet. But I didn't love it, and I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something new. So I started with, zero Instagram followers on HALIENE and also not revealing my identity. I was kind of keeping that a secret because I didn't want the music industry to go, oh, that's Kelly Sweet. That's just Kelly Sweet's new project. I wanted them to be like, who's HALIENE? And so I actually kept my identity secret for about 2 years as I first started playing shows even. My first show was Seven Lions. They only backlit me and I was a
Oh,
silhouette on stage. So I was really trying
that's
to do something cool.
mysterious.
Yeah, and trying to just change, the internet search results, everything. I had to start from zero, zero, zero. So it's really scary, but it's something I felt really powerfully that I needed to do.
Amazing. So tell us about working, with dance legends Armin van Buuren and Gareth Emery. How that happened and what was that like? All these artists are great, but these are these like true legends that have been doing this for decades. So I wonder what that
Mhm.
was like.
Gareth Emery's a really cool story. That was one of the first really big sessions that I did as HALIENE. I had a friend named Kara who also does music, and she was friends with Roxanne Emery, which is Gareth's sister. She had heard of our music, Roxanne had heard of our music through another avenue, and we all wanted to have a songwriting session together. So I ended up with Matt, my husband and partner, and Kara and Roxanne. We all went to Gareth's house in his home studio, and we wrote a song. And that song was Saving Light, and we wrote it in about 55 minutes. It came so fast. We were just really inspired. Just the energy was in the room, and the mission for the song was in the room. And when Gareth came back in, he said, "That's one of the best trance songs I've ever heard in my life, I think." So it was a really cool experience writing that song. And then to just see what it's gone on to do. Standwick and Gareth worked really hard on the track for almost a year thereafter. So even though the song ended up coming together quickly, the work on the track took a while. Working with Armin van Buuren was awesome. He is so nice, and he was a dream collaborator for me. He's so talented. He's such an incredible DJ, and he's just he's a true gem in the industry. I also did a whole tour with him as well, a bus tour through America in early 2020, pre-COVID. And we had an amazing time. It was just amazing to work with him, and he's so open to feedback. A lot of times, these guys are so famous, so successful, they're not open to feedback from the singer who wrote the song sometimes, but he is. He's a gem, and he's amazing.
So what was it like kind of, touring and performing these tracks, kind of at these massive venues and everything?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to play some really big venues, even in the start of my career as Kelly Sweet, and then in the start of my career as HALIENE. I'm very blessed that I got to do that. And the first really big show I think I did was San Jose Civic Centers, about 5,000 people with Gareth, and that was incredible. And then my first own set that I did was at also in the Bay Area, at Bill Graham, and that's 10,000 people. I did my own set opening for Gareth, and it was a pivotal moment in my life. And, when you're just getting started, starting over from zero as HALIENE and just writing these songs and hoping and praying they're gonna reach some people, to get up on that stage and have them singing and screaming the lyrics with you is a dream come true.
It's amazing. So it was like kind of performing some of these big EDM festivals. I know you've been at EDC and Electric Zoo, just kind of
Mhm.
performing in front of, tens of thousands of people. If not,
Yeah, it's an experience, and I have worked my way through all of them, from, just popping up for a song or two in front of 65, 70,000 people at EDC Kinetic Field, to just recently in front of 100,000 people with Slander and Millennium. That was crazy. To then playing my own sets, whether it's a support set or my own show, it's just like, it's wild. I will say I have been on every stage at EDC, whether it's on my own or with other DJs, and it is surreal. But at the same time, as huge as it feels, maybe it's because I have been doing it now so long, and or maybe it's because I just feel so connected to dance music fans. It also feels intimate in some way, for some reason, because we're all sharing one song. And I just have such a heart for those fans. And I feel so connected to them because I was one of them and still am a raver. It feels massive and intimate simultaneously.
right? It doesn't feel like there's 100,000 people watching you, right? It's just kind of a blur of one mass of people dancing.
Kind of. I mean, I do like to connect with individual people out in the crowd. I feel like that really grounds me on stage. And while it is a massive energy coming at you when you're up there, at the same time, it's just a big family, if that makes sense.
Definitely. So it was like kind of performing in different countries, kind of going over overseas and, seeing how the music resonates, outside the US.
That is always wild. Going to like Australia, which is really far, and singing these songs and them singing the words back is amazing. I'm always amazed at how far music reaches, how far it travels without us going anywhere.
Hmm.
And just hearing, I mean, meeting fans and hearing their stories of these songs and what they mean to them and their lives in a whole nother country. It's incredible. It makes me feel really grateful.
Yeah, it is amazing. So how have you kind of evolved your live performances over the years, kind of as you've grown from this, working guest sets to kind of your own live performance?
Yeah, it's been a process. It's really been a process, and also working with promoters to what they can work with us on, like making sure that I have a stage, which was like a revolutionary thing for them, because they're so used to putting the decks like all the way to the front. I'm like, can you give me 4 feet? I
Right? You
need
don't need
just
to
four
see the
feet.
DJ booth.
We can just do 4 feet. I just need a little space here. So it's been a process, but it's evolved, and it's been really cool to see other singers coming up behind me doing the same thing, and then the transition of live acts in general and dance music, and the like huge desire by fans to see that. And it's been really cool to watch the music industry evolve as a whole. I started just coming out with my microphone and singing with whatever space there was, to fighting for stage space, bringing our own microphone, our own in-ears, our own setup, and me having the control over my mix on stage for my own in-ears has been revolutionary for me, because for many years I relied on different sound guys every single night, different places. Who knows what you're going to get?
Hmm.
And the different factors that go into that. I talk to singers all the time that are struggling with that, because you can sound check, and when you get to the show, it might be completely different. I don't know why that is, but it's very frustrating. So I have my own setup on stage. I have my own mini mixer, my in-ear transmitter, and my microphone transmitter are on stage with me in case there's any problem, and I'm all in control of everything. So it's part of the CDJs, it's part of the decks. It's great. It's the way to do it.
It's amazing, right? It's like I'm thinking of like the visual elements and kind of how you really expanded with this, amazing visual, kind of the animation that you have behind it. And you're from the, oh, this is the technical stuff. And it's just like funny to think about what kind of a spectator versus, the technician who's like, yeah, like what really matters is that the sound guy and the earplug is coming in right. And like,
Yes,
yeah, that makes a
it's
lot of
true.
sense. But like, that's not even probably what most people are thinking about because there's like, that's I'm like like worrying about the visuals and what outfit I'm gonna wear and you know
That's true. You're right. I don't think about that because I'm so focused on like the sound. I don't actually ever get to see my show. If you think about it, I don't see it
yeah, you just
because
look at
it's all behind
pictures.
me. No, but as far as visually, there is like a whole story that I have created to go with the visuals. That's really cool. That slowly evolves through the set as the songs kind of tell that story. It's very loose, but right, we have kind of an astronaut following the voice through space and different planets, and you're on that journey with us following the voice. And my day-to-day manager and tour manager is also my VJ, and he does an amazing job using the visuals that we've had made and from different designers, and like telling that story for every show with all the songs.
And I think that that's a really important element, right? Especially in today's society, is having the lights, the visuals, the smoke, like all the kind of production value that adds to the experience, right? I think and attendees are kind of used to the kind of the spectacle at this point where like they want this added show beyond just like you said, someone with a mic and a DJ, turntables behind them.
I think there's both sides of the spectrum. I think there's, when you get into like the house genre, the deep house genre, People want less is more, you know? Like if you
Hmm.
go to some of those festivals, it's just a logo on the screen. There's no visuals. And
Just
people
black
are
and white,
just,
no
yeah,
color.
they less is more in that genre. But if in melodic bass, we're looking for an emotional story because those are emotional fans. We're not trying to check out, we want to dive in. So it really depends on the genre. That's what's cool about dance music, is there's something for everybody.
Amazing. So how did you kind of, you know, what kind of mistakes did you kind of encounter in the way, and how have you been able to kind of evolve and, you know, grow with them?
Well, I think you'll like this one. I didn't really understand my own contracts many years ago, especially when I first started getting into dance music, 2015. I read them, but I didn't really understand the verbiage, to be honest. So I signed some things that I regret signing for sure. And I have grown a lot in understanding what things mean. Thanks to you as well, because we've had many calls about things. And I think it's so, so important. As a young artist in my late teens, early 20s, I just trusted the people on my team to just make those decisions for me, not realizing that I really need to know what it is I'm signing.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, what you are a creative, but you're running a business, and your product is your creativity. So you got to know everything. You got to know all of the terms. You got to know everybody's job, and you got to at least understand it. And if I could start over, I would have been like, "Girl, you're taking a music business class."
Right. I think that's funny that this is kind of what I preach, you know, when I'm out there, you know, talking with whether it's students or on panels or just, you know, artists in general. It's like, yeah, like this is a business, and it's hard to think about that when you're in the creative space, right? You've kind of grown up for 20 years as a professional musician. How are
Hmm.
you able to kind of look at it from, okay, this is a business, and separate the creativity from it? And I feel like that's really hard, you know, for most artists, let alone, you know, new ones.
I know it's very, very hard, but it's a skill you have to develop, I think. You just have to have two brains. You have to protect your creative brain, with the other half of your brain, which is your business brain, and not really let them intermingle so much and yet be one human. It's an interesting thing. I've somehow learned how to do it, to be able to switch on business mind and switch it off. But it's taken many years, and I think it's so important to think of your creativity as the product you're protecting. And for me, creating Halien as a separation from myself as just Kelly is what's allowed me to do that. Like that is Halien. She exists over there. She is from me, but she isn't really me. That is what my product is. That is my business. And does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's like
Yeah.
you're not you're understanding that the artistry is part of what you're selling, but you, as you know, Kelly, has to sell and make the right deals in the right ways to be successful, so that the Halion brand, the project, can succeed, right? That you need
Hmm.
to have income, and you need to have revenue, and it needs to be profitable in order to continue.
Exactly. And it's hard to keep a hold of the soft creative brain and not allow that business brain that needs to be pretty thick-skinned and hard to take over. But you've got to just, okay, right now I'm business Kelly. Right now I'm soft Haley open to the inspiration of the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice for all the artists out there, whether you're established or new, is being able to understand that that's part of it. And you can't just, you know, drown it out or think, oh, well, someone else is going to deal with it. I just want to go to the studio and, you know, or like I deal with athletes. If they just want to shoot the basketball, they don't really want to know what's going on with other things. And it's like, well, it's great until it's not great. And then at that point, you wish that you would have taken a bit more ownership over, you know, everything. And it sometimes
Hmm.
may be too late.
I know there's so many artists that their success happened so fast and they didn't have time to learn these things, and they get taken advantage of in a million different ways. They end up with no money at the end and everybody else making money. There's countless stories of that. So protect yourself.
Right. And I think that's the perfect segue to this. So, what common mistakes do talent make when they're maybe, you know, signing with a record label or working with, you know, getting a record deal, right? It seems like everyone's trying to get this record deal, but, you know, what does
Hmm.
that actually mean?
I know. I've been there. I've had many record labels like fighting for me to sign. I had a bidding war when I was 18. And I mean, I ended up making the smartest decision, I think, at the time because I was offered a joint venture. And other record labels, were offering me a lot of money, but very few points on my music. And I think as much as I don't want to sign with a record label in the traditional sense anymore, I made the best decision for me at the time. I think that artists tend to believe the words that these industry execs are, you know,
Or
blowing
other
smoke up
artists
your
are
butt.
saying, right? It's kind of like the
Yeah.
gossip mill.
And also just like, we're gonna make you a star. You're gonna be famous. You're gonna be so huge. A month later, you don't even hear from them.
Right? It's like, who
I've
is
been there.
this? Like, you're like, new number, who is this?
Yeah, it's hard to make that decision. I think you have to look at their track record, look at their character, and make sure they're not just blowing smoke up your butt. I'm sorry, but it's a real thing because they say a lot. They say a lot and they promise a lot, and they don't usually deliver. If and at the end of the day, they want you to have it all together before they'll even sign you. They want you to be making $100,000 a year off your music these days and have over 1 million followers on social media before they'll even look at you. So, what do you really need them for? I don't know.
Right?
Again, it comes back to knowing your business and asking yourself, what are they really doing? I just had this situation with the management company, which you know about, that promised the world and all kinds of things, but at the end of the day, I looked at the deal and I went, but what are they really doing? I
Right? It's
didn't
like,
sign
what's
with them.
actually in writing and what are they at, right? It's like, yeah, we're gonna get radio play and put all this money behind it, but if there's no marketing budget in writing, then
Hmm.
there isn't a marketing budget, right? Like, that's the reality of the situation is they can say, oh, we're gonna do X, Y, or Z, but if they're not gonna put it down in paper, then it's certainly not gonna happen. And even if it's in paper, it might not probably happen anyway, right?
Oh yeah.
Like that's half the battle. Just because it's there doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna give it to you.
Hmm.
But if it's not there, you're certainly not getting it.
Absolutely. Get it in writing.
And what about, kind of into that of, working with agents and managers? What are some advice you have for artists trying to select them and kind of navigate that whole terrain?
I would say that no one on your team is going to work harder than you. You have to be leading the pack. You have to be the CEO. You have to be pushing everything forward. If you're relying on them to do it, you're going nowhere fast. So they get inspired by what you're doing. I think people think, oh, if I could just get an agent, maybe I'll get some shows. No, honey, go out, get some shows and show them and what they are going to be commissioning on, why they should want to get behind you and fight for you as you press forward. I used to believe that if I had the right team, I would make it, but it all comes down to us. We're a product. Our creativity is a product, and we're the CEO of this business. So we gotta lead.
Right? It's like I've had managers be like, if you're not doing anything, what is there for me to manage? Right? It's kind of one of those things where like you have to have a business for them to manage and grow. So if you're not doing stuff on your own, you're not having traction and movement, how much can they really do and how much can they really invest in building you up and managing you? And it's an interesting sentiment where it's like you said, like no one is going to care more about your success than you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like their job caring about you goes to as far as it'll go, right? I always look at the manager spectrum as like one side you have, the person that's willing to run through the wall and they really maybe don't have connections, but they'll do anything and everything to make you a star, right? Every word is, oh, have you heard my artist? Have you heard my artist? Have you heard my artist? Right? And then the other side
Yep.
is the super connected person that picks up a phone, a text message, and can make anything happen, right? And most
Right.
people fall somewhere in the middle of that, right? Some connections not as dedicated, no connection, like a few connections and a little bit more dedicated, but not as much as you need. So it's really comes down to, you, the artist, you, the creator, being able to, champion for yourself. And like you said, people that are starting to see, oh wow, she's doing this and that. Oh wow, I got to get in on this train's, the train's running away. If I don't get on it now, I'm gonna miss out on it. And I know I
Yep.
felt that too, like seeing people that maybe I was talking to, like, oh wow, they had just had that, and that. Like, I better reach out to them before like the ship has sailed. Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, people get inspired, and that's what you want. You want your team to be inspired. And whether it's just by the music and songs that you're writing, and that's where your focus is, or what you're building, I think it's awesome.
Amazing. So, what's your favorite part about being a musician?
Writing songs, I would say. I really love writing music. I really love just channeling inspiration and creating something that moves people out of absolutely nothing. I think it's just a magical job, and I've always loved that. I've always been a singer for as long as I can remember, and I've always had this voice, and it's kind of led me through my life. And I feel like it's the mission I was given, and I love it. And I also adore meeting my fans. Whenever I need a reminder of why I do what I do, talking to them and hearing their stories of these songs and what they've done in their lives is amazing to me. It just reminds me why I do what I do. I can't tell you how many people have told me that saving life saved their life. And that's huge. Just to hear that, they've had brushes with suicide and not wanting to be alive. And somehow they heard that song and it changed the direction that they were headed. Like that's huge. That's really, really huge. That means songs are going out there that I've written and really making an impact. And that's why I do what I do.
Right? Changing lives and impacting them on this kind of global scale.
Hmm. It's pretty
So what are some of your,
amazing.
so what are some of your most memorable highlights? I know there's been a lot, but what are some things that really just kind of like always stick out to you?
Oh man, I've had some recently that are pretty awesome. Like you mentioned at the start of the interview, I won Female Artist of the Year at the EDMAs, both 2023 and 2024, and that was crazy. My that is a fan voted um, award, and my fans just went totally nuts and made it happen 2 times in a row, which is amazing. That's like just incredible that they did that, and I have enough fans out there that they could do that. I think that's incredible. Recently, as far as shows go, we played Beyond Wonderland back in March, and it was one of the biggest stages that we've ever done like a solo set on. We had probably 4 or 5 thousand people at our set. It was just absolutely packed. And we had all the production. We had pyro, we had everything, and everything went perfectly and smoothly. And I felt so connected to the crowd. The sound was perfect. And when I came off stage, I said to Matt and Andrew, that was the best show of my whole life. That was the best show of my whole life. It was when you have shows like that, you're like, this is such an amazing job. I'm so lucky. And it was just an unforgettable moment. Some shows are hard, the sound is rough, and you're just still trying to put on a great show for the people that drove who knows how long to be there, that are struggling through whatever, and they need to hear these songs that night. But it's not always the best. And you're like, oh, we have feedback. Oh, that is weird. But you just keep going forward. But when it all works together and people are also just feeling it, that's where the magic happens. So that, and being on some really huge stages, like getting to perform at EDC Kinetic Field for 100,000 people last month was pretty spectacular too.
Amazing. So, kind of bring this towards the end. What's the future for you? What are you kind of working on? Where does, Haley and everything go?
Right now, I'm working on my second album as HALIENE. I'm really excited. I have some amazing songs in the pipeline. I am working with my favorite label, actually, Black Hole Recordings out of Holland. The owner, Arnie, is like my music uncle. He just believes in what I do and he wants to, invest in it. We have a joint venture. Like, it's just awesome to have that kind of belief in you. And the deal is like one page. It's just simple. It's just like, we're gonna spend money on this, marketing, music videos, whatever you want. It could be more if we want. And you make half. Great.
Mhm.
So he's just awesome. I'm really excited to make this album. We've just started recording. I have also some really big collabs in the pipeline with some really big artists. One of which is Slander, and I've been performing that collab at EDC and then also at their festival called Starbase. And it's a really cool reimagining of Eagle Eye Cherry Save Tonight. It's really cool. I'm really excited for that to come out. And then some more songs with Seven Lions are in the works. And then, yeah, we'll have some really cool collabs on the album as well with some more trance artists that I'm chatting with right now that I can't say. But yeah, I'm just gonna continue to write music and release it for my fans and enjoy this ride.
Amazing. Well, we're all definitely excited for the new album and all the collabs. So everyone make sure to, check it out and be ready. And, thanks so much for joining us, and tell them where they can follow you and, connect with you and learn about more of the music.
Yep. So I am HALIENE on all social platforms, HALIENE. And yes, it rhymes with alien. I've had a lot of fans ask me how to pronounce my name. It is HALIENE. Just put it out there. And then HALIENE.com is everything from merch to shows to music. You can check that out there as well.
Amazing. So everyone make sure you give her a follow and check it out. And if she's live in your town, I suggest get tickets, and you'll really be in for a very exciting show. And tell her I sent you, and who knows, maybe you'll get extra special something, but
Hey,
you know.
love it.
So thanks everybody again for tuning in, and make sure to check out our sponsor Vouch, the affiliate code in the video description if you're interested in the platform, as well as make sure to follow me on all social media platforms, Justin J ESQ, and check Apple Podcasts and YouTube for our past episodes.